Joining us now, live from Portsmouth Mini-Con 40, is the legendary co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles himself, writer and artist, Mr. Kevin Eastman! Let's go, Kevin!
Hey, so nice to be here with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
So awesome to have you back on the show again.
Thank you. Great to be with you guys.
All right, so we're here at Portsmouth Mini-Con to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which were created by you and Peter Laird over in Dover, which isn't like that far from here. So you guys did some absolutely revolutionary stuff in the world of comics. So how did the two of you meet? How did this legendary collaboration happen?
Well, it's an interesting story in that I had moved down to Massachusetts, and every fall, after I ended up finishing my work up at Johnny's Orweed in New England, cooking lobsters all summer for tourists, I would move someplace different throughout New England every fall. This year I went down to Massachusetts, and I had found this company called Scat. It was actually a magazine on the floor of a bus that printed local cartoonists' work in it. So I gathered on my work, took them over to their offices, the tiny little office, and tried to sell them some of my cartoons. And they said, well, we don't really do that much anymore, and your kind of work, you draw a lot like this guy Peter Laird, this other local artist who likes superheroes. So they gave me his address, I wrote him a letter, and we got together for a visit, for coffee, and hit it off right away, bonding over things like Jack Kirby and so many other favorites that inspired us as a comic book artist when we were younger, and pretty much started working together right away there. I went back to Maine to cook lobsters again for the following summer after we hung out for the winter, and then Pete ended up moving to Dover, New Hampshire. So when I finished work in 1983 cooking lobsters, I moved into the house on 28 Union Street, Dover, New Hampshire. And that's where the Turtles were created.
That's awesome.
The rest is history. And something that's just amazing about Ninja Turtles is, the thing that's made it stand out to so many generations is just how inventive and out of nowhere its concept is. 4 mutated turtles, educated in the art of ninjutsu. They're all named after Renaissance artists, and they love pizza. And so it's so original and so unique. There's really nothing else like it. But where'd that idea come from?
No, it's a great question, because it really was such a love poem to all things that we loved as comics growing up. Everything from animal characters that we read, Disney characters. One of my favorite books growing up was called Commandy, The Last Boy on Earth, which was Jack Kirby's work, which was based on kind of a Planet of the Apes kind of universe where it had all these mutant animals that ruled the universe. Ninjas, which Frank Miller made very popular through, repopularized in comics, particularly with Daredevil. And so we really picked favorite parts of, Fantastic Four and X-Men and Daredevil and animal characters and put them all into a blender. And my original concept was I drew a turtle with a mask on and standing upright with nunchucks, and I said, it's a Ninja Turtle, and Pete added Teenage Mutant to the title. And at this point, we were laughing out loud. It was the silliest thing we'd ever heard, and we said, well, we love it. Let's try to come up with a story that tells how they became the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then we raised some money through early forms of crowdfunding. My Uncle Quentin, who lived in Manchester, New Hampshire, loaned us the $1,300 to print 3,000 copies at a local printer. That was really, and it was one of those things, $1,200 at any time is a lot of money, but in 1984, that's a lot of money. And he wrote a check, and believed us. I think he wrote a check knowing he'd probably never get paid back, but he still did it. God bless him. So that was super awesome. So,
yeah,
all local, homegrown.
One of my favorite aspects of the original Mirage comics is how you and Peter Laird and wrote all those comics together. So what was the creative process like between the two of you?
No, it's a great question, because a lot of that was one that was often asked when we started, because typically in comics, say a writer that would write a script, and then because of the production process of trying to finish another comic each month, they would have a penciler with pencil, and then an inker would ink, and a colorist would color, letter with letter, and so there was this almost assembly line process. But whereas both Peter and I both wrote, drew, and lettered our own stuff, we needed to come up with a way to sort of merge our styles and do that whole process together. So it was, especially in the early days, it was a matter of literally just passing pages back and forth, and it evolved. It was accidentally on purposely evolved out of just, hey, this works, so let's keep doing it. So that was fun, and it was a lot of work to do a full page of comic, let alone 40 pages of comic. So to have somebody to share those duties with was really awesome and inspirational.
Yeah, that seems really cool, and it seems like you kind of carried that same sort of creative process over the last round?
Yes, yeah, and because even though Peter and I would talk out the stories together, oftentimes I would do the breakdowns, which is the panel-to-panel, page-to-page sort of layouts. We have the same idea, but I'm sort of driving the car, if you will, for a little while, pacing it out, see how it flows. And that was something we stuck with for quite a lot of our early years, and that's something I stuck with no matter who I worked with for artists for many years. So when we approached Last Ronin, not only was it interesting that the two main artists are from Mexico City, they don't speak very much English, they speak very little Spanish, so our whole communication was through Google Translate on some of the scripts, but I did all the layouts. So I provided the layouts, and I provided them the design, the layouts, the concept. Even Ben Bishop, who did a lot of work on the flashbacks for the Ronin, I provided him with the story, the script, the layouts, and the designs of the characters I wanted for each scene, because I approached it in a way that I was a director of a movie, and so this is the vision, this is the go, and these are my cast and my actors and my set dressers and all that stuff, and they provided such incredible work to bring that whole thing to life. It was quite an interesting process that I enjoyed very much.
So TMNT sort of went from being this like self-published indie comic to eventually becoming a $17 billion multimedia franchise. I mean, something we don't often hear though is like what happened in between these two stages. Like, what was it that really took the Turtles to the next level?
Well, that's right. I always love hearing too that because it's funny when somebody says, "Oh, the Turtles have made back in the day." They said, "Well, the Turtles have grossed $1 billion," and so a lot of people would immediately think that, well, Pete and I each made $1 billion, or we're splitting $1 billion, which was not even remotely the case. But it was just one of those things that you can't take away the accolades of something clicked with the Turtles, with the public, that it resonated, and it just started selling, and it kept selling, and that's just really even the company Playmates, who put together the first toy and helped fund the first cartoon series. It really was sort of kind of a Hail Mary in the sense that they liked it, they thought it was interesting, they were concerned that it was too different, too weird, the kids couldn't relate to it, and so when they put up just enough money to produce 5 episodes of an animated series, and that's what launched, that's what was first exposed to the general public beyond the comic book. At the height of the comic book sales, I think we did probably 100,000 copies, which is phenomenal as a comic book. Then suddenly, it's released as a cartoon series, and it's reaching millions of people on network TV, and that was really what clicked. And I think even they were like scratching their heads and going like, wow, the ratings are really good, kids really like this. And so then they produced another 8 episodes, and then they launched the toys, and it really was almost like a very organic process, specifically driven by the fans. The parents were mortified, but the kids were really the ones that drove the success of the Turtles. And funny to be sitting here 40 years later at an awesome convention in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we're here because of the fans still.
There's been tons of iterations of the Turtles in movies and TV, all the way from the 1987 cartoon to the Mutant Mayhem movie in 2023. We got a new animated series coming this summer, which is just going to be awesome. But out of every on-screen adaptation of the Turtles, which one would you say is your personal favorite?
Most definitely the first one. The first Turtle movie, to me, was the perfect storm of not only having an incredible director, Steve Barron, an incredible writer, Todd Langdon. No matter what anybody else said, the actual guy that adapted the comics into the movies, a guy named Todd Langdon, who did a fantastic job. The icing on the cake was Jim Henson's Creature Shop, who built those characters and brought them to life, because that was really the key to the success. If you saw those characters and couldn't buy into them being real, that they were just not a couple of guys in rubber suits, like the old Godzilla movies or something, it wouldn't have worked. But Jim Henson and his magic and puppetry and the technological things that he brought to bear to bring them to life really made that work. And I loved the movie because it was right in the middle of, it had a lot of the humorous, funny stuff that we would see in the cartoon series. It had a lot of the dark and edgier and heart and soul that we found in the black and white comics. So it was really a perfect blending of both those things in the movie. So I've enjoyed all the different versions of the Turtle movies to different extents, but the first one will always be my favorite. And then most recently, the Mutant Mayhem series movie I thought was fantastically funny, and I'm excited for the series as well.
And if you had to pick one between Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello, you probably asked this a lot, but which turtle is your favorite?
Well, it's Michelangelo, and it's because he was the first turtle ever drawn. So I said, and my answer typically is I'm a co-parent. Pete and I are co-parents, so they're all our children. We love them all equally. But when fans say, well, if you had to pick one, who would it be? And I say Mikey, only because he was firstborn, for no other reason. But also, as his character evolved in the comic books and the cartoon series, he was kind of the more laid-back, funnier, humorous one. So as a storytelling device, to me it was the most interesting because he as a person had the furthest to go, had the largest arc to go to become this, hell-bent, implement of the revenge and redemption for his family, so it made sense.
So, being one of the original creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, what has it been like to see this franchise grow and evolve so much over these past 4 years?
It's really been fascinating on every level, because much like I said earlier, it's the success of the early success of the Turtles was based on the fan response, and the fans have driven it. Every time there's been a relaunch or a movie, they've come out and we've not only in varying degrees sort of satisfy some of the original fan base. They've come along for the ride, but we've discovered new fans along the way. And so watching it grow, it's not something like you can manipulate and you and me all decide what's cool and what's not cool, what we're going to read and what we're not going to read. That's what, the kids of every generation make that decision for themselves. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they're not going to buy it. And so it was just fantastic. It was organic and evolving and continuing, and again, driven solely by the fan.
What's next for Kevin Eastman, and where can we support you?
Right now, it's we're chest deep in Last Ronin 2, called Re-Evolution, which is the second part of the series. We're looking, if it works out the way we hope to do a third series, but we'll see what the fans like if we do a job on this next series, which will be a full, much like the first series, it'll be a full 5 issues, 40 pages each, 200 pages total to tell the whole story. But I'm also launching, we just launched this month, Drawing Blood, which is a new series that I came up with many years ago, and then partnered with another writer named David Avalone, and then our local hero, Ben Bishop over here, the regular series artist, and Troy Little. So that's a 12-issue series that'll evolve, starting this month, for 12 issues. But mostly this year with the 40th anniversary, we're doing a lot of touring. This year already, we've been to Rome, Mexico City, France, Kansas City, and this is our official 5th stop on the on the 40th anniversary World Tours here in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. And I think we've got about another 10 shows this year. So it's going to be quite a juggle and a lot of fun, and we really enjoy every aspect of it.
That's awesome. So thank you so much for coming on our show. It was such an honor to do this interview. You just are such big fans of your work. Thank you so much.
Well, it's my pleasure. And so as we get close to the end of Last Ronin 2, then let's get back on a call and see. You can give me your rating. All right. Let me know if we did our job enough. But great to be here with you guys on Geek Gossip, and you guys are awesome. Really appreciate it. Nice talking to you. Enjoy the rest of the last day of the 40th anniversary.
Yeah, you too.
You too, Kevin. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Cheers. Cowabunga.
Cowabunga.
All right, I am here at Portsmouth Mini-Con 40 with Kevin Eastman's uncle, Quentin. How's it going?
We're going really well.
So back in the day, you actually helped fund Turtles #1. Do you want to tell us about that a little bit?
I used to visit Kevin and Pete at their apartment, or actually a rented house in Dover from time to time when they were working on the Turtles, and they were actually working on Fugitoid. And Fugitoid I thought was pretty cool. I'm not really a comic books guy, but I'm a Kevin guy. I've always admired Kevin, and he's 8 years younger than me, and watched him grow up, and he was always drawing. A lot of little kids would draw a lot, but he just never stopped. And he was committed like nobody's ever been committed to making a success out of being in the comic business. So they thought they wanted to publish the Turtles independently, and they thought they would give them some money to fund the Fugitoid, because they thought that's where it was really going to be coming from. I mean, bottom line, I lent them some money. They published it. They paid me back. Kind of end of story. But the first convention, which was, I think, May 4th of '84, which was actually 6 days after my oldest son was born, we went to that. My oldest son came in a little carry basket. We got a few free #1s and had some lunch. And I just remember going. It was a big room full of tables, kind of like this, but not as many people.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your story with us. And just real quick before you go, between Leonardo, Raphael, Michelangelo, and Donatello, which turtle is your favorite?
I'm going to say Kevin is my favorite turtle.
Mine too. All right, I am here at Portsmouth Mini-Con 40 with Brian from Turtle Tracks. How's it going, Brian?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. So you run the podcast Turtle Tracks, which is a purely interview-based Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles podcast. But going back, sort of, what was it that inspired your love for turtles, and how'd you get into this franchise?
I actually don't remember a time before I was a Turtle fan. I was just a little kid when the show premiered and when the toys were first coming out, so I just latched onto them right away and never kind of got out of it.
And so what inspired you to start a podcast?
I interview people for a living. I work for Cracked Magazine, and I wanted an excuse to kind of talk to turtle people. So I decided, you know what, if I do a podcast, it's my excuse to talk to guys like Kevin Eastman, Rob Paulson, people like that. So it was a chance to just interview my heroes. So that was the reason why I did it. I talked to Steve Barron, who is the director of the first Ninja Turtles movie. I just did my 100th episode, which included the 4 Turtles from the 1987 series, Rob Paulson, Barry Gordon, Cam Clark, and Townsend Coleman. All kinds of people I've gotten to speak to for that.
All right, I am here at Portsmouth Mini-Con 40 with Josh Belanger. How's it going?
I'm doing great, man. You?
Doing awesome. So you're a local artist, but sort of going back, what was it that made you into comics?
My uncle owned a comic book store in Exeter, New Hampshire. Super long story short, he brought me Spawn issue 4 and Man-O-War 0. And I read those back to back so many times, and it was just, I went crazy. And then all of a sudden I started like taking my bike down to a comic store down in Rochester, and it's been downhill ever since.
And you just did a cover for a reprint of issue number 1. So what was sort of the creative process like behind that?
I went and reread issue 1 to be like, oh yeah, it's been a long time since I read this. And then I realized it's kind of like a revenge story from Splinter. So I was like, I wanted him to be foremost on the cover, and but like you need to have the turtles to help sell it. So I was like, all right, how can it? So I like researched some like different like movie posters, and so I decided to have them big, kind of contemplated on the front, and then had some actiony turtle stuff in the background stuff. And that's how it kind of came together.
All right, we're here at Portsmouth Mini-Con with John, the director of the Woodman Museum. How's it going, John?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So what was your introduction to the Ninja Turtles?
Well, I grew up in Dover. I'm familiar with the birthplace of them. I saw the first live-action movie, the 90s one, as a kid, and then started working at the museum. When that whole kind of process of getting the manhole cover and the commemorative roadside marker in town, we wanted to be part of it. And so we just hosted a pop-up art gallery last year. Kevin Eastman was there. We had Steve Levine, Jim Lawson. Did a whole bunch of stuff with the Ninja Turtles, and I'm happy to report that we're going to be actually opening up a permanent Ninja Turtles gallery at the museum this year.
What kind of stuff will you have in the gallery?
It's going to be like an interactive exhibit. So we're working with Kevin Eastman right now. We have on display downstairs right now a number 10 anniversary issue of Ninja Turtles number 1. And we're going to have some toys, prototypes, animation cells, a whole bunch of different stuff. There's going to be like a reading library in there, so guests could come in, sit down, read a comic, and then we're actually picking up one of those pop-up arcade games so people can play Turtles in Time in the gallery as well.
All right, I am here with Eric and Manny live at Portsmouth Mini-Con 40. How's it going, guys?
Doing great.
Cowabunga.
So you guys both have a pin business and a podcast. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
I run Warrior Pins with my buddy Manny. We've been doing it for the past 8 years. We're big turtle fans, and it's just a fun way for us to create turtle art in a wearable fashion, connect with a bunch of people. Doing it for 8 years, and now we're here having the time of our lives, getting to meet other turtle family and friends that we've met throughout. It's been a lot of fun.
Nice. And so what was it really like back when you were kids? What was it that made you interested in the Ninja Turtles? Like, what was sort of your introduction to the franchise?
Sure. When I turned 3 years old, I got a first Ninja Turtle movie as a gift. So it was 93 when I turned 3. So the movie had been out 3 years. Turtle Mania had done its thing. I saw the movie when I was 3, and I was hooked on it from since then. So it was whoever got me that gift, they're responsible for all this madness in my life.
The original show premiered December of '87. I was born 3 months later, so pretty much my whole life has been consumed by Turtle Mania. I'm a little older than Eric, but yeah, as far back as I can remember, you know, just like I think my 3rd birthday party, I had like turtle stuff. There's a photo of me with a nice turtle shirt and hair, you know, back in the day. And yeah, it's just, you know, the original show got me in, and then in middle school I found out about the Mirage comics, and it was around the time the 2003 show premiered, and it was just like, you know, certain things I'm really passionate about, you know, like Looney Tunes, Ghostbusters, obviously Ninja Turtles, and whatever I'm passionate about, I have to learn more. And, you know, it's awesome. It's 40 years old.